Welcome in to Rover Sports. This is the Rover and Dave podcast edition of the show. So excited to be talking again with Dave, my esteemed co-host here on the Rover and Dave show. And we're going to talk some big NFL storylines. So Dave, how are you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thanksgiving this year, like if I was designing Thanksgiving, I would design Thanksgiving all around Bills Cowboys, but I'm going to be traveling mostly on Thursday.
That's fine. What time do you head out?
I'd say I head out like in the morning, and I don't want to give my location, but heading out in the morning, and it's a drive and.
You might get too many fans to where you're going for Thanksgiving, so you're not giving out the location.
No, you totally get that. Like, hate fans, nice fans. You got to keep your privacy when you're a big public figure like me.
I got you.
Because I've been doing this a long time, and you get crazy people. Some nice, some crazy, and when you're big time like this show. You always gotta, with your family and everything. Gotta keep it close to the vest.
No, believe me, I get it.
You get it. All right, so I'm gonna put some nice little titles up here. Speaking again with Dave. Before we get into football, just talk about Feast Week for like 2 minutes while I put up the graphics here.
Yeah, no, we've got a great slate of games today. You had, to begin the day, you had Michigan State versus Georgia. Michigan State was up 28 in the second half. Anthony Edwards, projected top 5 pick, went absolutely off to 33 points alone in the second half. I think he ended with 37, but he was just absolutely unreal. Step back, 30-footers, highly contested shots, transition threes, just pulling up 2-on-0, it was feeling it, pulling up when he had a layup from 3, just knew he couldn't be stopped today. It was beautiful. The tournament I'm looking forward to is the Atlantis. You've got Michigan, Iowa State, Oregon, Seton Hall, Gonzaga, and North Carolina. That's going to be a big one. That starts tomorrow, and that should be an absolutely unbelievable tournament.
What game? So North Carolina's in that. Are you talking about Atlantis?
Atlantis, yeah. North Carolina's in that. North Carolina, I forget who they open with. But it starts with Michigan and Iowa tomorrow at 12. North Carolina, I can't remember off the top of my head who they play.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a popping noise, but I think that this should be all right. But yeah, tomorrow I'm excited just to see Cole Anthony. He's probably my favorite player in college basketball.
Yeah, and then you get to see. Well, I think it's one of the better. It could be the best game of the tournament tomorrow night. It's Oregon versus Seton Hall. It's just 2 older teams that are just, fun to watch. You might have maybe not the best prospect, but I think he's actually the best player in college basketball just for this year as a senior. It's Miles Powell. I think he's the most exciting player to watch. Every time he's out there, it's must-watch TV. If you like guys taking and making 30-footers. This guy has done it for 3 years, now going into 4. And his cousins with J.R. Smith. He's got a very J.R. Smith-like game to him in the sense of those crazy step backs and hitting highly contested shots. A
little Jimmer?
A little Jimmer. Yeah, a little bit Jimmer. I think Jimmer probably actually put the ball on the ground better, finish at the basket a little bit better.
Yeah.
Jimmer probably actually doesn't shoot it as well contested, but Jimmer definitely is a better knockdown open 3-point shooter.
Yeah, watching Jimmer in the Mountain West was what was absolute. That was must see. And there's a couple of guys that Miles Powell is definitely like a guy that I like to watch. I hope, Dave, that you tune in tonight to CBS Sports Network to watch the UNI Panthers play host to West Virginia and Mexico tonight.
Yeah, well, you got to start here in probably the next 30 minutes. You got the Shockers of Wichita. They're playing South Carolina, so
that's right.
Coaches and Greg Marshall and Frank Martin. So I mean, I don't even know if we're watching out there. The team's playing, or we watch the coach's coach. You know.
And guess what? There's a lot of testosterone in that gym.
Oh, there's a lot.
And you know who wouldn't fare well there? Our buddy. You know, that court's going to be really hot, to put it mildly.
Oh yeah. It's going to be hot.
It's going to be
the Cancun court it's going to be hot in Cancun.
It's going to be like court 3, you know, and you know, when the weather is cold outside, you know, I know it's not in Cancun, but when they play up north in Wisconsin, the best opening line that you'll hear a college basketball announcer, it's really cold outside, but the action's heating up inside. Gets me jacked every time.
Oh, dude, it's unbelievable.
Let's talk about last night. We got the graphics up. We're all ready to go. And I'll just admit this, man. I'm the head of the bandwagon for the Lamar Jackson was not going to work in the NFL. Going into that draft, I had him ranked the last quarterback. I didn't even know why the Ravens took him at the end of the first round. I'm like, and when they took Lamar Jackson, I'm like, this is Ozzie Newsome just throwing something against the wall for his last draft. You know, even the Ravens took Hayden Hurst before they went up to take Jackson. So the Patriots could have taken Lamar Jackson. The Broncos, a lot of teams, missed out on this guy or missed out on this potential. And I said this year that I just thought he threw the ball like Blake Bortles. I thought that the Ravens would just be kind of abysmal this year. I thought that they would not be a factor at all. I thought it would be Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and I thought that this running offense would actually be stopped. It would be similar to the Chargers-Ravens playoff game, but it's amazing how this story has turned out for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about, Lamar, where a lot of teams, you could say, missed on him, but if anyone were going to draft him, they had to do exactly what happened in Baltimore, where, they completely revamped the offense to him and not expect him to be the quarterback that can just, step up and scramble. A lot of people were, I'd say, weren't wrong on their take of Lamar. Just people weren't expecting a team to completely redo the offense where it's run. I mean, Lamar's scramble rates are very low for a guy that runs as much as he does.
Hey, so, Dave, do you want to try to call me back so we could try to get the popping out of the pot? Yeah. Let's just try to get the popping out because just some people are commenting on that, and let's see. I'm going to talk for a little bit myself. Right here on this show, and I want to thank you guys for all stopping by. We're going to try to get David back on the show to continue the Lamar Jackson talk. If it happens to pop even a little bit more, I think we'll power through. And okay. All right, I'm gonna try to attempt to call back my friend. I think it'll actually go better. I think. I think it's something with my computer. But go ahead, Dave. Just try to talk.
Yeah. Hello.
It's the dumbass popping thing that we got going on my computer. I maybe wonder if it's because I'm charging my computer or something. There must be a loose cord somewhere. Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, hello. Spencer.
Yeah. I think we can let's power through for like a 20-minute show. And you know what I mean? Let's try it.
All right.
I could still hear you, so we could still get the message across. So we're talking about Lamar Jackson. You're talking about basically the infrastructure of how the Ravens have done this. Go ahead and continue your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson, he just, they went full commitment to him. I think the thing you've seen in the past was some of these quote-unquote scrambling quarterbacks, maybe not quite, the level of Lamar Jackson as far as speed and athletic talent, but they want the quarterback to fit their system instead of adapting their system completely around quarterback, if that makes sense. So a lot of Lamar Jackson's successes, unbelievable athleticism. He's doing a great job, but at the same time, I mean, the system around him has been built for him, and he is fully taking advantage of it. I think, Harbaugh, kind of, even last year you started seeing it before they brought in Greg Roman, they changed their offense completely mid-season, and that might have been where you saw some of the struggles, is that this wasn't the offense that you had gotten used to in training camp and were running the whole year, if that makes sense. You kind of scrapped everything, mid-year, and, you didn't go through a training camp, and you're just week by week trying to get better and better at it, So, and the funny thing about the Ravens is, they've gotten better and better and better offensively through the season. So, sometimes you get these flash-in-the-pan offenses, and I'll call it like I see it. Like last year you saw McVay. It was almost like a flash in the pan. The first 8 weeks of the year, they could not be. No one could stop them. But then towards the end of the year, it started slowing down a little bit. They got to the Super Bowl. They were a great team last year, but they didn't get to the Super Bowl based on their offense. The defense had really stepped up, and, bad PI in this, and kind of that's the way it is. But this team, not only is the offense clicking, it's getting better week to week. Like last night, they didn't not score a touchdown when Lamar Jackson was in the game any drive. And
yeah,
I think that's a big thing to look at. It's like, even against Cincinnati, for as bad as they were, I'm not sure that, like, other than like the end of the half, that there was like a kneel down, that there was any drive that it didn't end in a touchdown or field goal. So teams are not physically stopping this team at all.
They're never, and it's interesting. I know Marshall Yanda is one of their offensive linemen, but this team is never behind schedule. Like whenever they run Ingram, they're always getting like 7 yards, sometimes even more. Their running game is extraordinary in every respect. So they're always ahead of the chains. Jackson does a tremendous job of getting the ball out of his hands. And there's no sacks, there's no holds. It's the cleanest offense, and the work ethic of all these guys and all these parts to make it work. But maybe it's just this offensive line is just mauling teams. And I guess like even Aaron Donald's a good player. But do you think it's because of this offensive line, like this interior running game, that like really just kicks off everything with this offense?
I would agree. I think it all is a factor. I mean, the offensive line obviously gets pushed, And also, I think what you're also seeing is kind of the old school approach, just fully taking advantage of this new school, like new age, like the linebackers are smaller, the defensive linemen are smaller, if that makes sense. So,
yeah,
it's like the girth of, just the sheer running approach is kind of like, it's going against everything that the NFL has created, and as far as the passing game and things like that. So it's kind of where I'm starting to believe that this offense, at least this year, might not necessarily be stopped. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, but I mean, they might have the one game, but the idea that, defensive linemen now are more in the 255-pound range, 260, like a big defensive, like some of these premier edge rushers. That's kind of big, Well, to run the ball and get a little bit of push, it's not that hard for these 300-pound linemen that can actually block and move their feet. So it's kind of since this game has gone so far passing in most of the NFL, like teams are not personnel built to stop this. And
yeah,
it kind of proves out week in, week out.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't see a lot of like low percentage throws in this offense where like they're taking deep shots, or like there's almost no back shoulder throws that are required in this offense. And since the running game's so powerful, everybody's stepping up into the box. And then you're hitting like all these crossing routes, and these guys are so fast, like Hollywood Brown, and whether it's Hayden Hurst in the middle of the field, and there's security blankets everywhere. It's a quarterback's dream, this offense, or unless because you have Hayden Hurst, who's all these tight ends like Mark Andrews and Hurst can all box out the littler cornerbacks that are covering them, and then Lamar Jackson, just his speed to the edge of the field. I think that now thinking about it, it's probably going to work like maybe for about, if I had to guess, like as long as Lamar Jackson continues his physical abilities with running, this offense absolutely has a chance. And I guess it's because the whole league it's a zigzag concept, and the Ravens have zagged to like this. They've kind of found their niche with this defensive line, and everybody just thought it would be an aerial attack with like Mahomes, with Doug Peterson's offenses. And it's pretty unbelievable. And then, Dave, I wanted to point this out. The New York Giants, like when they run the football, or like when Phillip Lindsay and the Broncos run the ball, I don't know that still, but like the Giants have big linemen and they can't run the ball. So like, why do you think that Mark Ingram is running so well when like Saquon Barkley, even Christian McCaffrey, like the Saints completely shut down the running game of McCaffrey, and the Panthers have to get really creative with how they utilize McCaffrey. Todd Gurley is on the other side for the Rams. How come we're not seeing more teams run it like this? Like, how come they can run it in the middle of the field? Because you see, like, Chicago's defense can shut down the Giants' running game. How come the Ravens' running game is unscathed?
Well, first of all, I mean, you just pointed out three teams with Danny Dimes out of all of them is like the most mobile, but we can't compare him to Lamar Jackson. You don't have to set an edge rusher every time, Kyle Allen, like, can't run to save his damn life. And, Goff, he's not really a willing runner either. So these are more all guys are passing. So when you don't have to, when everyone can just crash down on the running back, it's a lot easier.
Right.
It's, when you have to gamble and guess, what the hell's going to happen, it becomes hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you know what I would do if I was a defense? I would shut down Ingram, number one. I would let Jackson, if Jackson's going to run all over you, let him, because you could take some pretty good licks at Jackson like a running back. You could hit him a little bit, and he isn't as big as Mark Ingram, so let him keep pulling it and let your corners go after him. Just stop Mark Ingram. If you stop Mark Ingram, your chances of winning go up a lot. That's how I would guard it.
Teams are more concerned about stopping. It looks like stopping the interior run game than it is Lamar Jackson. It seems like that's the gamble that most teams taking. They're just not.
But last night, Mark Ingram killed them.
Yeah, but still, and then, what happened? But realize a lot of times these big runs come after, they've stopped them a few times, or maybe and then Lamar's just pulling one, and then he gets hit. Once Lamar breaks one or two big runs, all bets become off,
Yeah, it scares defenses so much. And then, like that D lineman that's just frozen, that's the worst thing in the world, because then they'll hand that ball off, Ingram will go, So there's so much eye candy there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
But if I had to devise a way to try to stop this offense, which is really, really difficult, Mark Ingram and the interior running game, you cannot let them gash you in the middle of the field. Somehow you have to get them in the passing situations, which is really tough. Lamar Jackson, honestly, has been really accurate. And the Ravens, to your point, they got Mark Ingram. Hollywood Brown was drafted. They drafted the two tight ends. And I think that the guy who is on the Ravens is like a Moneyball guy or somebody from that tree. So a very innovative kind of offense. They utilize analytics and everything. And, right now Lamar Jackson is absolutely an MVP. Like I never thought I'd say that. And, you have Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. And, really, when Lamar Jackson was selected, like, I don't know if there were a whole lot of defenders of Jackson. I think there was a lot of criticism. I think people liked Lamar Jackson in college. I haven't heard people saying, though, that he was going to be an all-time great in the draft process. Like, I didn't hear anybody really say Jackson's going to be an MVP, like when the Ravens selected him.
The only person I can go back and remember, like, kind of crowning him as this guy, teams are crazy for not looking at him as a top prospect. It's someone that he played against, Dabo Sweeney. I remember him talking about it. He was on one of these, I think he was on the NFL Network or ESPN talking about the draft one day, in spring, and just saying this guy has a special talent, and he's not sure how he's not the top guy on the board. And maybe that's kind of what has to be looked at. The guy who actually had played against him.
But to play devil's advocate, he plays Louisville. He's a spokesperson for the ACC. And when have you ever heard a coach saying, he's just all right? So if you ask Dabo about Sam Darnold, he would say Darnold's a good player. He could throw off schedule and all that stuff. He's not going to crap on a player.
Yeah, but he did come out and say that he was the best quarterback in the draft, far and beyond.
Interesting. And and he played Baker Mayfield, I think.
Crap on the guy, but he did basically, put him in a class of his own throughout his comments.
Do you think that Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback out of Baker, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, and Josh Rosen?
Yeah, because I'll put it this way. I don't care what you say. Sometimes these things get judged by individual achievements. Lamar Jackson was an MVP. Until one of these guys wins the Super Bowl or something like that, or an MVP, there is zero doubt. I don't care, because then it becomes very opinionated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It becomes who you prefer. Longevity, my only chance for Baker and Josh Allen to be better is in the long run. But winning an MVP is certainly great. But there are still ways for Mayfield to catch Jackson because, Cam Newton and Matt Ryan have both had career years, and Matt Ryan might be getting lapped by Kirk Cousins pretty soon. So it's still possible for these young guys to catch him, but this is an unprecedented, amazing season. This is, and that football we were watching, I don't really remember an offense being this dynamic and good. I mean, I remember when Chip Kelly first got to the NFL, and maybe that's an insulting reference. I'm not saying it's going to end like Chip Kelly, but when Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson were on Monday night, that kind of reminded me of that. I don't think that's even an insult. It's just how exciting it was, how unstoppable it was.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And, the difference between even Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick, and I hate the comparison because really what you're doing, you're taking two running quarterbacks, guys who run the ball very well, and you're saying these guys are the same, and they're just not. But the big difference between the two, it's Michael Vick was not nearly the size of, physically as Lamar Jackson is, Michael Vick was always kind of a smaller guy.
I think he was 6'1".
He was a smaller frame guy, too. I'm talking about, forget the weight, just you can see Lamar Jackson when he's out there, I wouldn't call him a physically imposing, what you would see out of a linebacker, but you don't worry about him being small and taking one hit and just, not getting up. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But, a knee is a knee or something like that, but Michael Vick was a small guy, and the injuries he would deal with were, basically, because he's small, the hips, dealt with hip pointers, the bruised ribs, the shoulders, and things like that. And, I don't worry as much with Lamar Jackson with those type of things, And also, being the fact that he runs more designed runs, not taking, these big open field hits that somehow Michael Vick never got that memo that you should be sliding a lot, where Lamar will take some hits, but they don't seem to get very big ones off of him, or they're hitting him off the side because he's getting out of bounds,
Yeah. So, part of the reason why, and Lamar Jackson, he's a quarterback that is operating in kind of this very special offense. I think it's definitely more advanced than just it's not really an option offense. It's a, kind of a zone read kind of deal. And then, he is throwing the ball. But a lot of quarterbacks like the guy I'm going to talk about is a guy that is one of your favorite players of all time, and a guy like Lamar Jackson that was one of the greatest college players ever, even much better in college than Lamar Jackson. That's Vince Young, one of the greatest college players ever. I think Vince Young, 6'4", and if Vince Young, first of all, he went to Jeff Fisher, the worst possible spot. Do you believe Vince Young could have been Lamar Jackson? And would Vince Young, I feel like a problem too is that some of these quarterbacks, they might not be thrilled with the whole, changing around to this run read option. Like I feel like Lamar Jackson was very good and he was very humble through the process of going from a pro style to this offense. Do you think Vince Young could have been Lamar Jackson if he got the same coaching? Because I see so many similarities. Vince Young was an accurate passer, an amazing runner as well. He is tall enough. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think in fairness, I hate Jeff Fisher. In fairness to Jeff Fisher, a lot of Vince Young's problems in the NFL were Vince Young. If he had drinking problems, not showing up to meetings and things like that. So, a lot of the struggles with Vince Young started in the rookie year of the off season of it between rookie year and year two, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, but anyway, when you go back to that, do I think he would be more successful in this type of an offense? Yeah, I do. I truly do. And Vince Young might be that classic example of, you pick the scrambling quarterback and you just expect him to drop back and pass it 100 times. I mean, who's the quarterback that Vince Young? Remember, Vince Young doesn't start game one, if I'm not mistaken there. Like, who he replaced with? Like Kerry Collins.
Yeah.
So your offense is built around Kerry Collins in some way. I'm not saying that they didn't know that Vince Young was the future, but it's an offense that was built for Kerry Collins to start the season with. And that's kind of back in the age when the first-round picks didn't always start. Now they seem to start almost immediately. But it's kind of like you have to wait 6 games, and if the team was like 0-6, then maybe you go. Or
yeah, you have to suck.
Yeah, like even remember Eli Manning. He doesn't start until they were 3-5 and they waited 8 games because they wanted him to learn. So but I think everything's circumstance where it's kind of what you're drafted into, and it's a different analogy. But I listen to him a lot. One of my favorite commentators. He's not a football guy, but it's Jalen Rose. He said he'll always talk about. Every player, it's not, all situations are not the same. It's all about the organization that you get drafted into. And, these organizations are a lot of times more to blame for highly talented players that you're like, they were just terrible in the pros, whether it's development or putting them in the wrong situations, than the players themselves. And then when they get to another situation, they're already so far gone that, it's unsalvageable,
Yeah, imagine if... what's his name? Like Tyrus Thomas, who was on the Hornets. Imagine if he went to like the Steve Kerr Golden State offense and got to catch lobs all day, and he could be like an Iguodala.
Yeah, I mean, and then we'll go back to Vince Young. Do I think he would have been successful if he was with the Ravens in this offense? I do. But the thing that with Lamar Jackson does make him really special is that all these guys that we kind of will mention, whether it's Michael Vick may be the only exception here, but I'm not sure. You'd have to get them in a foot race and to actually prove this one out. But I still take Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is faster than all these guys.
Yeah, he's and also he is a good throw. He's also a good thrower. Okay, like he's not he is like an NFL quarterback in terms of throwing. So you talked about like maybe wide receivers transitioning to be quarterback, like Antoine Randall L. I don't think could have just done this.
Well, let's put it this way: it's like you have to become a good thrower, but it's like we were talking on the phone the other day, and it's like. Just because like a guy like Justin Fields can run, I don't think that a guy like that can run this offense. If you're looking for, I don't know that there's one player in college football that could run this offense with any success. I think, as I said, like the only guy I can see in college today that could be the next Lamar Jackson type is Lynn Bowden, and he's a receiver. And I get that the guy can barely throw the ball right now, but, you know, that's the only guy who I could see if he were to develop the throwing. That's a huge if, and I'm not discounting that in any way, shape, or form. You know, being able to run this offense this way with this type of success. You know,
do you think that Fitzgerald is too slow, Nick Fitzgerald?
Yeah, these guys are all slow. Like, let's put it this way. Like, even like you texted me earlier about Tyrod Taylor and Craig Roman, and it's like Tyrod Taylor is not even by NFL like standards. Like, he's like an above average athlete as a quarterback. He's not like a great athlete. His measurables weren't like off the charts at these combines. I think he was like a 4.67 at the combine as a rookie. You know.
And it's and he's not big like Jackson. It's very rare, like, to find this perfect blend because, you know, like Brad Smith, who knows how well Brad Smith could have thrown the football, you know? Like, it's so interesting to even think in these terms if it's going to be copied. I doubt it'll be copied, though. I still think Trevor Lawrence and Herbert and all these guys will probably still be the majority.
Well, I think where you're going to see Lamar Jackson's impact, and sometimes it takes years once you get, because I think you're starting to see like Steph Curry's impact on the NBA in college basketball. It has to come from a younger generation of kids that, like, it starts at the 14, 13-year-old level, and now you're starting to get these kids into the NBA, you know, where I think Lamar Jackson's impact might start coming in high school football at 15, 16-year-old kids right now, and you might not see this real big impact for another, you know, I want to say 4 to 5 years, but it could be coming. It just, you might have to wait for it.
I think it's already started, and I'll give credit to high school coaches. I hear a lot of them say that our best athlete's going to play quarterback, and he's going to run well.
But that's what I'm saying. You're not going to see it in the NFL. If it's in high school right now, you got 3 years. Remember that. 3 years. Yeah. So if these kids are 15, 16 years old, or sophomores or juniors in high school, whatever they are, you know, that's 5 years away from touching an NFL field.
You know what's interesting, too? When Lamar Jackson was at Louisville, he didn't run this offense. He was able to just run the throwing college offense.
I mean, I'll put it this way, that Lamar Jackson was going to be successful in college, you know, no matter what. The funniest thing I ever remember, it's there was a game I took Auburn. You know, I took Auburn minus like 8 the first game of the year against Louisville. Okay, and I want to say that their quarterback at the time was Reggie Bonifant. Started the quarterback for the first game of the year. Okay, and
for Louisville.
For Louisville, yeah. I think he was Reggie Bonifant. All right, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he was playing quarterback, but I think he's a running back with the Panthers today, okay? And then this guy was getting nothing done, like 0 to nothing done at all. Then, like, Petrino brings this guy in, and well, I just remember Auburn. It was an okay Auburn team. I'm not sure if that's like
I think I remember what you're talking about. The game was in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome.
And Georgia was beating them like 17 or maybe 20.
And do you remember do you remember after that game, Jeremy Johnson was like the next big thing?
Yeah, but like Lamar Jackson, right then and there. I mean, he didn't have the best freshman year in the world ever, but you know, he had a good one. You know, he just right then and there, just like he planted his feet in the ground and he was just off and running. You know, so. You know, it's kind of right there. It's like, the guy's been a special athlete. He was beating the SEC players with like little to no blocking that game. I remember it. Like, I mean, the guy was just creating with his feet. He's just kind of always been this guy, and maybe it's just kind of time to sit back and say, as long as this guy stays healthy, the take is going to, you know, it's kind of like you're waiting on a guy to get hurt that might not ever get hurt. If he gets hurt, then I mean, I really hope it doesn't happen. Then he'll.
No, I want Lamar Jackson to continue. I think that some of the disdain for Jackson is that I was not one of the guys who said he would succeed, And, you know, a lot of diehard Ravens fans, like they're a pretty aggressive fan base. You know, when you come at their team, they're like, all right, you're a hater, you hate Lamar Jackson. And I'm not going to bandwagon, you know, I'm not going to flip sides. And I think I'm just going to view him right now. You know, that's the way to go. I don't think that you should just sell out on your opinion of a guy. And I have nothing against him. I think he's a great kid. His work ethic's tremendous, and it is really fun watching him play. It is. So, but I'm not going to completely flip to the other side. I can't. I put my, you know, you got to stick by your opinions often.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Lamar Jackson is it's like, you know, you would think at this point some team would start stopping him. No, I think the team that could stop him it may be built. I wouldn't say necessarily built to stop him, built the best to stop him is coming into Baltimore this week. You know, that's going to be a very interesting test. You know, with that defensive line, you know, it really is going to be interesting of the 49ers.
I'm very excited.
That athletically can, you know, stop him. Other than that, I don't know what team is necessarily built to stop him. I mean, you're going to have to, you know, look at the games that, you know, they had the one terrible game against the Browns where the defense got lit up. I get that, you know. Okay. I mean, the offense still scored 20 or whatever it was, 27. He didn't have a great game, you know. Lamar Jackson, I get that. But it still took the key to this team is that the defense doesn't give up the points either. It's like, how many times have we seen the Chiefs over the last couple of years? You know, Pat Mahomes stands on his head. I mean, they haven't lost many games, but when they do, Pat Mahomes stands on his head. It's the defense can't make any stops, you know?
But it's a whole operation, and this defense is very, very rested. It's a whole operation. But I want to get to a couple of other topics here. I have about 20 more minutes left. We're talking here on the Rover and Dave podcast. You mentioned the 49ers. Let's go back and talk about that game, Sunday Night Football. When Aaron Rodgers got sacked, and it was a sack fumble, 49ers go in for a touchdown, 7-0. I think it was one more 3 and out, and I looked over at my dad, and I said, Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want to be here. And you could tell, like, the game was almost over, like within 5 minutes, just how dominant the 49ers were. It was by far their best performance. They looked like an incredible, unstoppable defense, elite in every category. And then Jimmy G was precise. He hit Deebo Samuel for that touchdown. A couple of takeaways is that Aaron Rodgers, some consider him the greatest quarterback ever. He played in that game. And I'm sure you have some thoughts on Packers 49ers and just how terrible kind of Aaron was on Sunday night.
I thought Aaron was awful. Now I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to blame a lot. I don't think the Packers were ever winning this game. Let me make that very clear. You know, the 49ers were just a better team, and they are the better team on paper, and they were the better team that night. Aaron played terrible. To me, and you can't excuse it because Aaron was terrible, and you gotta be better. To me, the blame really boils down to Matt LaFleur. I mean, you know, it's like there have been 2 games this year that I have watched, and it's funny, both of them on the West Coast. This team just looks like not only did Aaron play bad, I get that, but the rest of the team itself just looks ill prepared for the game at hand. They played that game in San Diego a couple of weeks ago where the team just didn't look prepared in any way. And then I'm just going to say it, they didn't look prepared on Sunday night. And maybe it goes to your point of, well, Aaron Rodgers, you know, looked like he wanted to be out of there at that point. Well, maybe he knew there was nothing they could do to win, and he's got to step up. He's got to be 100. He's got to be a lot better. I thought he was terrible. But to be honest with you, got no time, and then you get hit like that all the time. You've probably seen ghosts, as Sam Darnold would say, you know?
And there was no running game. The way to combat the 49ers is running game. It's actually screen passes. And ironically, Now, you could say the 49ers have taken the Cardinals more lightly. I think they were really geared up for that Niners game, or for the Packers, but Kyler Murray does a heck of a lot better, and maybe it's his ability to extend plays, like the mobility of Wilson and Kyler Murray.
I could definitely agree with that take 100%. I mean, I think it's just a bad matchup for the Packers, who, as I would say, are kind of that fool's gold team. They are a good team, and it takes that special D line to kind of throw them off. And then, Aaron Rodgers may know there's only so much this team can really do at times. Like if the line can't block, I mean, what the Aaron Rodgers is kind of best at, it seems like a lot of times, getting that ball to that 15 to 30-yard range, somewhere like those long, deep plays. You don't have time with that with the 49ers on the field,
I just feel that the guy's body language, like when people are comparing Aaron Rodgers to the greats that ever played this game of football, his body language is nowhere near Peyton Manning or Tom Brady in terms of when things are going south, even Russell Wilson or any great quarterback.
I agree.
Right? Like, didn't he look like he just wanted to quit? And even Tom Brady against the Ravens, was still like really fighting, or after a 3-and-out, they get really pissed and angry. The Packers had no fight. It was really an embarrassment from Green Bay. Imagine if you paid money to go from Wisconsin to San Francisco to watch that team play.
Hey, I mean, and there's a lot to be said for the Aaron Rodgers argument. I mean, I think where Aaron Rodgers is probably what I would call the most talented quarterback to ever play the game, when you start looking at where talent meets results, if that makes sense, where we're not going to get into guys who weren't that good, and you can say, oh, this guy just had all the talent in the world. I think when talent meets results, Aaron Rodgers is the most talented player in the game. It doesn't make him the best player ever. I mean, as you're saying, the body language, Aaron Rodgers is the only great quarterback that I can remember that whenever someone leaves the team, they just rip the shit out of the guy, Like, for whatever reason, like, you only hear people just ripping on Peyton Manning. He was a douchebag, all these things. Multiple teammates have just come out and ripped him. His question is leadership ability. So, and I know everyone in the Packers organization, whenever something like that comes out, oh, that's just terrible, whatever you want to use, Stephen A. Smith's word, blasphemous, Aaron's a great leader. I'm going to tell you right now, no one rips on Tom Brady. No one rips on Peyton Manning. No one ripped on Kurt Warner even back in the day, as far as leadership style, things like that. Steve Young, maybe one guy here and there, Troy Aikman. This is the only all-time great quarterback that I can think of that people just constantly come out and rip the shit out of the guy. So, honestly, like, I believe it. I don't care what anyone says. Like,
yeah, and the McCarthy thing was so bizarre last year.
Yeah, I mean, the McCarthy thing, it was like as if he had quit on the guy and he wanted him fired. And, like, I know they were all kumbaya after the year because both of them are really, I mean, it's nothing to do with Mike McCarthy as a coach. But, McCarthy handles it in the most professional way. He had this chance to say, Rodgers is, an asshole or something like that. No, McCarthy handled it as professional. I love Aaron Rodgers, and then Aaron probably had to follow suit because, once again, being professional, politically correct. I bet you if you had Mike McCarthy on off-air mic that he knew that never gets out to the public, he's ripping the guy, and he knows you're not going to go out and tell anyone. But
yeah,
I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers too. I love him. I think he's a great player. He's fun to watch. Everyone loves watching Aaron Rodgers, pretty much. But
how could you not? It's art. It's art watching him play.
I mean, body language and the leadership, I think those are all very fair questions. I think the guy is all-time great. He won a Super Bowl. He's validated himself as a quarterback. I mean, yeah, could you say he needs to win 2 Super Bowls? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, he'll never be in that, he'll never be like that guy, kind of like Tom Brady is. He's kind of like, Tom Brady has stamped the greatest of all time thing. Some people can argue otherwise, but the Super Bowl speak really, really loud. For me right now, you can't ignore those Super Bowls. Once again, it's kind of arm talent and all that stuff. Maybe you can get into, but it's kind of that's kind of the guy who Tom Brady. It's talent, results on the field. That's what makes him the greatest.
It's really unbelievable. I think that the Patriots, how they've completely monopolized this AFC East is pretty
It's
incredible. And maybe teams are maybe good coaches were so afraid to play against Bill Belichick. It's interesting because I guess I can't really remember this far back. I was kind of in middle school, but I guess in the AFC South when you had Indianapolis, I always knew Jacksonville didn't have a great infrastructure. The Titans and the Texans. So Peyton Manning actually had a pretty easy division as well. So maybe great quarterbacks get the divisional boost, but actually, like if Brady was up in Green Bay, it's something that will never happen. But like Green Bay is surrounded by the Bears and the Vikings, and those are two decent franchises at best. So that would have been even more fun. But the fact that, and this is the perfect example of why you're seeing the Patriots now. Of why you're seeing them go to like they're going to be 13-3, and N'Keal Harry is like their best wide receiver. Their offense is very flawed, but watching that Cowboys game, it's just so tough to mentally beat the New England Patriots. It's so tough to do it.
The Patriots are one of these teams, and don't think I'm not discounting what they're doing. They seem to get lucky a lot of weeks, and you need a block punt, you need Dak to fumble the ball and then throw the interception on the same play, But the funny thing is the luck. It's just the same team that always seems to be making like these plays at the same time, like the lucky play, the lucky bounce, the bad call, whatever it is, all the time it goes the Patriots' way. So.
Yeah, and you're going to pop up, and they're going to be hosting a flawed team in Foxborough. So no matter what, they might get to the Final Four. No matter what, probably.
Yeah, you're probably. I mean, I agree, and they have as good a chance as any because once again, unless the Ravens run the table here, which is going to be very hard with still, they got to play the 49ers. They still got some tough games on the schedule. The Patriots lose maybe one more game,
Well, actually, a team that I was very excited to see the Patriots play a couple of years ago, it's when Marcus Mariota beat the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think Andy Reid, no matter what, if like Mahomes gets a chance in the divisional round to play the Patriots, that will be phenomenal. I cannot wait if that happens.
I 100% agree. I mean, and then if you get kind of what the Patriots are probably looking at, unless you see something, how do I say it, unforeseen, you're looking at Mahomes or Watson in the divisional round, and then Lamar Jackson. And I've been critical of them, but you win those two games, you earned it.
Yeah, you're going to get amazing quarterbacks, no more of the Brock Osweiler, Mariota Bortles, or even Phillip Rivers. And this Sunday night, I cannot wait to see them go to Houston. That's going to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great football game. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, these guys, I have not been impressed with them, the Patriots, to be really honest with you. I don't come away saying that this team is one of these, all-time great Patriot teams. I think Patriot teams that have more losses at this point in the year have been better than this one, but, they seem to be getting it done.
Yeah. Dave, I wanted to ask you, we got about a couple more minutes left. One of my favorite players to cover and one of my favorite teams on here is the San Francisco 49ers. They're the most subscribed fan base along with Buffalo on my channel. And I've always liked Jimmy Garoppolo, his game of the quick of getting the ball out of his hands quickly. His leadership is underrated, I think, and I do a lot of film reviews on Jimmy G. But I wanted to ask you, Jimmy G, his record is great, 19-3. Do you see him being a very good quarterback? Do you see him kind of like right place, right time, like even like last year, Jared Goff? What do you think of Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I kind of respect all opinions on Jimmy G. He is having a great season, but what do you think about the guy and him as a player?
I mean, personally, Jimmy G, I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, very good. I don't know what the difference is. I wouldn't call him elite in any way, shape, or form. I can agree with the right place, right time. I think there have been games where the team has carried him, but then there have been games where when the team needs him to step up, he steps up and makes a throw. So it's kind of like that. Kind of, I would call it a very good mix between the two. Of other guys you'd rather have, of course, but it seems like most games when they need him to step up, he does, and there are going to be games where this team, the defense and the running game, just kind of carries the bad Jimmy G. So
well, what's interesting, Dave, is that if Jimmy G went, really the barometer is if you can get to Super Bowls and win them, and if Jimmy G and this team even goes on a mini dynasty, or if they win like 2 Super Bowls, he immediately will get elevated. I think Jimmy G can actually be reminiscent of like a Troy Aikman style player if he could do this.
I mean, the thing that we won't. This is one of these things we won't know about Jimmy G until he kind of get there. It's like, is he gonna come up against one of these games where he really needs to move that ball? Himself. And you saw against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not saying the Seahawks are better than the 49ers. I don't actually think that. But, Jimmy G was – and you're going to nitpick out the one loss all year, but you know what? That's all I have to go by. Jimmy G was kind of being forced to win that game through the air,
Absolutely.
He just couldn't do it. And so that's kind of –
and he was shaky, I will admit, absolutely. I mean, there were 2 game-dropped interceptions in that football game.
So I don't know this year necessarily the game I can necessarily point to in a big spot where Jimmy G kind of stood on his head and was great. Maybe the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, but the Cardinals still kind of
I would say both Cardinals games. I'd say the Browns game and this Packers game were his best. Even against Green Bay, he played well. He couldn't control his defense was balling all over Aaron Rodgers. Okay,
so here's the thing. The Browns game, he played well, but the thing is, they didn't necessarily need him to play well. If that makes sense. I would say the only these games have been won by the team. Anyone, if you had Nick Mullen back there, there's about maybe one more loss I can show you for this team, and that's really true.
I think, but here's my argument. Nick Mullins and CJ. They were the guys last year, and they weren't even close. They were the worst team. They were the worst team last year.
That's a stupid argument, and Spencer, you know better than that.
No, but here's the thing. Jimmy G was with those same crappy players the year before. He went 5-0 to end the year. Jimmy G would have won 8-8 last year.
Because the whole team was hurt last year. They were the most hurt team in the whole NFL.
Jimmy G would have gone 8-8 because Jimmy G, he is a clutch quarterback and he seizes the moment. CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, they could not seize the moment like Garoppolo can.
I'm telling you, they'd still be 8-2.
This year, they might be maybe. Let me think of another game. The Pittsburgh game with Mullins and Beathard, they would have lost.
They would be 8-2.
They would have lost the Pittsburgh game.
We don't know that. I mean, Jimmy G didn't play really well that game. So
listen, this will be exciting. These next 2 games, I think the Ravens will be really tough defensively. The Saints game will be phenomenal. So yeah, we're going to see how it plays out this season for sure.
Yeah, I think this is. Yeah, you can get to this part of the season with Jimmy G that you're going to see. It's kind of the easier. I mean, I'll put it this way: this team is a fucking well-oiled machine. They've beaten good teams, so I think this team is as good as any in the NFL. So, I mean, what I'm saying is Jimmy G is their best quarterback, no doubt about it, and he's definitely better than Beathard and stuff like that. But this team would be 8-2 regardless of who's the quarterback. But they can't win the Super Bowl with this team without it being Jimmy G. That's kind of I'm
right. That. And you have to be an elite level. It's not even a game. I don't know if it's a game manager, but you have to be an elite level, just point guard of the offense, or maybe you could say manage the game. You could say that. That's what Russ did in his first couple of years, and now the guy is absolutely outstanding. So maybe that'll be the trajectory. But for Jimmy Garoppolo, he shouldn't give a shit what me, you, or anyone says. He just got to keep winning. He shouldn't give a shit about where he stands, in terms of his reputation.
Podcast.
What?
I promise you that Jimmy G is not subscribing to the podcast.
Is he listening to the podcast? He could send some porn stars to this podcast.
Yeah, he's not.
Porn star Jimmy. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo, he makes bad decisions on that interception because he chooses to date porn stars.
Maybe that was a good decision. I mean, it's all matter of the way you want to look at it.
That's exactly right. Now that I'm thinking of it, if you really have to think, and that's why he's aggressive late in games. Confident. Well, Dave, it was a pleasure. I'm going to let you get back to watching basketball. I'm sure the Shockers are up 20 right now on Frank Martin.
Wichita versus South Carolina right now, so tune in.
You're going to be flipping over. But, Dave, it was a blast. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and to everybody listening on the show. This was a lot of fun, and we'll do the pod after the holidays, man. It's going to be awesome.
Sounds good. Have a good one.